Finding funding for a startup is a challenge for any founder, but let me tell you, it is especially frustrating for female founders. Our guest is sharing how her organization is changing the landscape of investment opportunities for female founders. Woohoo! Stay tuned for the Startup Life live show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Startup Life live show. I'm your host, Ande, Lyons. I'm so happy to see you here. And hey, after raising 4 businesses of my own, I now help newly minted founders raise their businesses. And I give them peace of mind with this wonderful Ande-licious advice because, hey, wouldn't it be great if a new business came with instructions? Can you see yourself going, okay, next thing I need to do? What a treat that would be. Thank you for carving out time to join me today and the community here at Startup Life Live. We're so thrilled to have you here live or via replay. And please like the video. And for those of you viewing this on YouTube, I'd be so grateful if you would click the subscribe button. Thank you. I am so excited to introduce our guest today, the extraordinary and a fave right here in the Boston community, Marie Meslin. Let me tell you a little bit about what she's been up to, what she's going to share, who she works with, and the incredible organization that she is the executive director of. It's called the Capital Network, and it's a nonprofit organization supporting early stage founders with education, mentorship, and access to investors. And in collaboration with the Venture Capital Inclusion Lab out of Brown University, the Capital Network has produced a series of conversations titled Investment and Inclusion, where they're exploring how investors can create a more diverse portfolio that will support underrepresented founders while growing their returns. Oh my gosh, we're going to have a delicious conversation with Marie. Hey, welcome to the show, Marie. Where are you hailing from today, Marie?
I'm calling in from Arlington.
Yay. Did you hear how she did that? You did a nice job on that accent, Arlington.
I tried, considering I'm only I've become a new American only last year. I really tried to pronounce the Boston A's properly.
Where's the home country before America?
I'm French, originally French, grew up in England.
Yay. Well, I'm up the road from Boston. I'm up the road in a town called Andover. And I have to tell you, it's really Andover, but here in Boston, and you guys have seen it on Saturday Night Live, it's so much fun to, go crazy on the Boston accent because it really, truly is unique. Oh my gosh. So those of you watching live, you know that we're streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Periscope. So it's so important that you share your business if you have a business and the URL so I can bring it right up and show it on the screen, and Marie and I can do a woohoo, because look, we're not getting out networking anywhere, folks, right? Mm-hmm. I also like to take this moment to remind folks this is a great way to carve out time to network. Your role as a founder does not end. You need to constantly be collaborating and networking. And just because you can't get out doesn't mean you have to stop doing this. You've got to come to these live events. Marie's going to be sharing her conversations that you can show up live to, where you can pop in your LinkedIn URL, grab other people's, connect, and find ways to collaborate. So speaking of collaborating, look who's here. Aaron Weisblatt. Mr. Weisblatt I think this is one of the hardest hats to wear, Marie, as a founder. He produces films, indie films. So when you're a producer and a director, you've got to do everything. I think it's one of the hardest jobs out there. So thank you for coming in and saying hi, Aaron. And then it's Jing Jing.
She's incredible because she's my main coworker. She's my work wife.
I love them, my work wife. Jing Jing, you are amazing. Program director, yes, at the Capital Network.
That's right.
And just fiercely committed to the work that you all are doing there and just adds value everywhere she glows. And I have to tell you, I've learned from her just this past week and how she helped me promote the show. So thank you, Jing Jing, for that. And of course, one of the folks who helps keep the glue together, keep us glued together here in the startup community in Boston, Mr. Steve Vilkes. How are you today, Steve? Great to see you here. Oh, look at this great company. Hey, Ashley, Clothes Concierge, a wardrobe service for busy professionals. Okay, girl, this is definitely a great business. I'm going to be checking you out. I had folks, it was back in the 90s, but a woman had a company called Closet Queen, and she would come in and look at what you had and come out with like 20 new outfits you never would have thought and gave you ideas to, accessorize, etc. Thank you, Ashley, for swinging by. You're amazing. Thank you. Thank you. And hey, Gerald Shapiro. Maria is a TCN, totally cool networker.
Whoa, Jerry, nice. I love the acronym.
I have to say, that's where I'm going from now on. That is pure and deliciousness, Jerry. I love that, something fierce. Oh my gosh. Well, folks, I'm going to dive in a little bit into Marie's background because, she didn't just show up the other day and as an incredible, extraordinary executive director for the Capital Network. It's always fun to find out, well, what were you doing before? And I am excited by that and to find out. But I just want to say hi to a few more folks in the crowd. Great. Allison Byers. Allison, come on, you know the role here. You got to put Scroobius up into the comment threads.
Yes. So Allison is one of our 2020 fellows. Woo, woo.
That's right. And Marie's going to go deep into a phenomenal program that they have at the Capital Network for female founders. And thank you, Steve. Great. Well, we will talk about that. Absolutely. So now I'm going to get into Marie, where were you? What were you doing? How did you, leave this behind and come into the Capital Network? Everybody has an origin story, things that, floated their boat. What called you to want to work with entrepreneurs? What lived experiences did you have that brought you to this place and space in your life where you said, I want to serve this wild and crazy group of people, if you ask me?
So I love the fact that you said, you didn't just show up, like you didn't just magically like kind of appear. Because actually, Andy, that's kind of what happened. I won't lie to you. So my background, I'm French, grew up in England, lived all over the place, Middle East, all over Europe, and then ended up in America because I fell in love with an American from Massachusetts. So that is why I'm in Massachusetts. So that was my first accidental, I guess. But the reason why I say it's accidental is my background is in, my degree was in anthropology, social anthropology. So I have always been interested in people and their stories and why people do the things they do and why people think the way they think and how their experiences influence the way they behave. Like that was really what I was interested in. Especially because I grew up in a country that wasn't my home country, what my parents didn't come from. So I was always interested in that aspect of things, what that means, and immigrant story in general. So that was kind of my background, but my professional background really was in nonprofits. That's, women's rights. I worked for some organizations out in San Francisco and in New York that were focused on helping women in all sorts of ways, others that worked with the Middle East, and other organizations that were really focused on citizenship and world education for American students. So my background was really more in nonprofits, kind of helping people succeed in those.
Right. So clearly, you're an advocate. And
yeah, that was always, the interesting portion is like, sitting down and listening to anybody's story is something that I love. So from that perspective, it's probably no surprise that my job is listening to people's stories when it comes to their businesses, right?
Yes.
After the nonprofit world, I actually went to work for an innovation consultancy, one of the largest in the world, actually, called What If Innovation, out in New York, and then back in London. And their job is to help companies, Fortune 500, charities, nonprofits, solve problems through a creative process. So
Nice.
really focus on innovation, really focus on coming up with new ideas, helping support people in being more innovative in general. So that's where I that's where I spent a few years before I came to the Capital Network.
How did you hear about the Capital Network? Did you land here in Boston and then you needed to find a gig and you loved being in nonprofit?
No, and this is the importance of networking, but in my own way. So I didn't go out into a bunch of networking events. I didn't know that I was going to be working in the startup world. So I actually worked for a small company that I helped kind of grow into a bigger company. But I was speaking to a friend of mine who I worked with in England and told her, I'm in Boston. If you know anybody here, I'd love to connect. And she said, well, you know what? I mentor a young woman out here. You should speak to her. And that woman is called Erica Reif. She used to work for Mass Challenge, and then she was the program person for the Capital Network. And I spoke to her and she says, you know what? After hearing what you're saying, I'm about to leave this job. I think you should just take this job. And I was like, okay. And so I met the previous executive director and really was interested in kind of, learning more about the startup world. And then as I started talking to people, I was like, yep, I need to be here. I need to support people and be really involved in the ecosystem.
So when you joined TCN, not just as a terrifically cool networker, but the Capital Network, in 2015, what did you find? What was the landscape like then? And talk about how TCN and how long TCN has been serving founders in this really important capacity, which is how to fundraise, how to get capital. And folks, that's from like cap table to term sheets to how to, pitching, how to have that first conversation. Do you need the money? How much? Everything.
So I think first I want to say, and I think this can help people, look at themselves without having too much of an imposter syndrome. My background is absolutely 100% not in finance, nothing at all. And so I think that's really important to know, because a lot of people kind of assume that when you're in this world of fundraising, you're in this world of finance, of business, of all of these things, you have to be a master in all of these different things. But I think what's important to note here is there are many things you can be good at, and you can get the support you need for the other things that you might need help with. So for me, what I was good at is connecting people. And so not really knowing all the backgrounds around finance actually helped me have a different perspective of what that kind of education and what those kinds of conversations should be, versus if I'd been trained in this, I think I would have seen the workshops in a very different light. So sometimes being outside of something helps you have a different perspective. So for me, when I joined the TCN, I was a little bit, scared of, investment and cap tables and term sheets. Like, what the hell is this? What are people talking about? I have no idea. But I think what became apparent is as you started talking to entrepreneurs and investors, you start getting a sense of what people say they need and what people actually need, and making a difference between the two. So when we started our workshops, because TCN has been around since the 90s in one way or another, it's been a nonprofit since 2004. So it's been around for a while. And while it's really important for people to understand, the basics around what the funding structure is. So what is a cap table? How do you understand that? How do you communicate with investors? How do you negotiate term sheets? All of those things are really important to understand. But what's really the most important is these are a relationship with people, and learning how to communicate is the most important part of the fundraising process. So understanding the technical aspects, yes, but first and foremost, understand how to talk to people about what you're doing, how to build your confidence in that, and how to kind of shift the power dynamic that exists between investors and entrepreneurs. So for me, those kinds of things were really what was important about what TCN could be.
And it's so important what you just said, Marie, about bringing a perspective that was outside that, because so many founders are first-time founders.
Mm-hmm.
So they're viewing it all through the lens of I just wanted to launch a business. So I think that's wonderful. And I have to be honest, several of my businesses, I had a 0 founder market fit, maybe a -0. So, I had to, but at the same time, I was able to see innovative ways to do things because, I wasn't handicapped, so to speak, and restricted by the preconceived of how it should be. So I love that. So go into a few more details, like how does somebody join the Capital Network? How do they get involved? How do they have to be from Boston? Can they be from anywhere in the world? How does that work?
Yeah, so I think I'll just give an overview of who we are and what we do first, right? So people can really understand. So we have been around for a really long time. The way that I describe TCN now is a little bit different to, I think, when I joined. So what's really important for me that founders get is an understanding of what fundraising options are out there, how to really educate yourself on what those are and how to do those so you can make the right decisions for your business. I 100% think that if you can create a business without raising any money, do that. Fundraising is really, really hard, right? And most companies will not fundraise. They will not make that transition. And a lot of companies don't even need it, right? So I want entrepreneurs to really understand what's the right avenue for them and for their business now and for the long term. So really, we're focused on that. We're trying to kind of get away from the myth around unicorns and IPOs and all of those things. Again, that's not realistic for most companies. So being prepared is super important. So for us, the way we do that is educational events, webinars, boot camps, mentorship, all of the things that help you understand all of the avenues and all the options you have and how to make those happen. So on one end, it's really about the education. And on the other hand is because we've been around in the Boston ecosystem for a really long time, we have a very strong network of active local investors for the early stage. And so for us, it's also giving access to these investors that most entrepreneurs wouldn't have access to especially if they haven't gone through an accelerator. So our programs are open to all. We do not select. We really want to be a resource for any company that's interested in understanding kind of what their first capital might be.
You hold amazing events around what you were just talking about, the investors. You bring in some phenomenal investors, which really can help founders get more comfortable with the process because you bring it in such a warm, inclusive way that they get to see, not touch, but when we used to be in person, we could meet them, of course, and shake their hands. But it helps you founders when you can see and hear how an investor thinks, because if you've never raised capital before and you're reading all these things online, or you're seeing really nice polished presentations and you're thinking, I can never do that, or these people are up on a pedestal, you'll understand that they have agendas too, what they're looking for. And it helps you become more comfortable. It's still scary as anything to get up there and pitch your baby, your business, your dream, your vision, your mission to someone who's looking at it with a real critical eye. Yeah. But if you do need to raise the funding, and this is, what's so important is that sometimes you might have a life science business. You might have a business that really needs the capital in order to build something. Or you may have proven your MVP, your minimum viable product, and now you're ready to scale. And you can't do it without adding a team, and the sales aren't enough to support that. But I would also say getting prepped to do something like this would just be a phenomenal exercise for you, the founder, even if you bootstrap the entire way like MailChimp. I think anytime you get outside eyeballs on your business, you win. I'm always telling my clients, go to that pitch event, go show up here, pitch. Even if, you may win something, but at the end of the day, you're going to get feedback that either you throw in the trash because you know your business better than anybody, but more often than not, you're going to get valuable information that you can use. It's free.
And I think also, like, for fundraising and for VCs, angel groups, all of those things, those are kind of black box organizations. You don't really know from an outside perspective. You don't really know how it works. It's really difficult to really get honesty out of how the process works, because again, I think there's a lot of lovely stories about, oh well, I went to pitch and then I got given a check and then I raised $1 gajillion. Those are the stories we hear, but those are most of the time obviously not the stories that happen. So what we're looking for is also just an honest perspective of how the process works, what people expect and what people want to see, so that you can be prepared and figure out whether or not that aligns with your vision for your business. It may not, and that's totally 100% fine. But go in there and be prepared and know what questions are going to be asked, so you can you can feel as confident as you possibly can be.
That's wonderful. I was just going to reach out to the audience and say any questions you have about TCN. If you're curious, because you can be anywhere. You could be from Seattle, like Pop Smart Kids founder Priyanka. How you doing, Priyanka? Okay, folks, this is for you parents out there. Pop Smart Kids, go check it out. Priyanka is a tech master's in tech, and she's a mom of 2 young boys. And she said, screen time is important, but you want to manage it and you want to have it be group and family. And there's a lot of things you can do with screen without just going, no screen time. There's a way you can create it to work for you and your family. So if you're parents, go check out Pop Smart Kids, because Priyanka has done a phenomenal job making screen time a creative storytelling group time as a family, not just disappearing time. Hey, and hi, Christine Salvo. Say hi to the waves in Southern California for me. And can I just pop up Allison here, because she absolutely, TCN has been amazing. And this is Allison's business. And Marie, tell everybody what Allison's business is about.
Yeah, so Allison is one of our 2020 fellows, and it was an obvious fit for kind of what we do and who we want to support. She is creating a way for underrepresented and undernetworked founders to be able to pitch it, through a portal and through video, which makes it much more accessible and honest as a pitching. And that's really to help founders raise and for investors to be able to find them as well. So it's really building a whole community of women and founders of color to give investors access to kind of answer this whole pipeline problem that we've so often heard about investors not being able to find new majority founders.
Yep. And would you define new majority, please?
Sure. Yeah. So new majority is actually a term that at TCN we've decided to start using. And it came from 1863, which is an organization focused on supporting more founders of color. And new majority really kind of focuses on the demographics in the US. We are about to switch to a minority majority in the US. We already have actually with the under 18s. And so the way that this demographic in this country is going is there are going to be more people of color, the kind of as we go. And so instead of using terms like underrepresented, underestimated, undervalued, under, which have these very kind of negative connotations, we wanted to kind of mirror what actually is happening in the data and why investing in founders of color and investing in new majority founders is actually future-proofing your investment. This is the way things are going. And if you don't start investing in those demographics, then you're just not making the most of your investment portfolio. So new majority for us is a term that that can be used to talk about this underrepresented demographic.
Can I get a hand raise or something in the comment threads, everybody, for that term? Yeah. Love it. It is proactive, not looking back. It's looking to the future. So thank you for that. I love it. Something fierce. And while I'm thinking that, can I pin comments here yet? Nope, not yet. Let's just answer this about how male founders can mindfully help the amazing peers in the space. Because, Steve is so good at coming by and dropping these great questions.
So I think for us, so where we are now is we are 2021 is a year where we're looking at expanding our community in general. And And it's really important to be able to kind of collaborate in new spaces, create new partnerships, and have open conversations. And so, I think for us, the way that male allies can come in and support is, well, one is, for investors, it's put your money where your mouth is and actually invest. I think what we've seen is there's a lot of conversations. I mean, I spend the whole summer talking to investors and talking to entrepreneurs about what they're seeing, what they're doing, from a COVID perspective, from a Black Lives Matter perspective, from a women's perspective, like all of these different things. I took the summer to really have as many conversations as I could have. And there is a real want to do something, to act. But a lot of these conversations keep happening in the background. They happen at the kind of like water cooler, right? They happen in small, intimate Zooms. And so I think what male allies need to be doing is they just need to be more vocal about where they stand and what they plan to do and how they're going to act. It's like anything, you have to educate yourself. You can't rely on everyone else to educate for you. So you have to not just say that you want to do things, but actually really engage others and understanding what the issues are and how you can best support them.
And I think we can add a little peer pressure. Of course, I've mentioned this many times, and Christy Pitts from Backstage Capital was on, or other guests. I always talk about, can we set up a checklist, a scorecard? Such and such said we're going to do this. How are they doing?
So the most important thing, and this is what we've been talking about at TCN for the last 6 months, is it's the portion of accountability. So saying you're going to do something, signing a pledge, isn't enough. I think that serves to make you feel better. I think what we're trying to do now is really dig a little deeper and understand all the stories and see what are the things that we can do and how can we hold ourselves accountable so that by the end of the year, we can really show, we can really actually do the work versus talk about the work. And I think for me, that segments into why we're doing this investment and inclusion series, Ande, if I can just segue into that.
Yes, absolutely.
Super selfish. It's 100% selfish. So what happened was, again, with all these conversations that I was having with community groups, different investment groups, entrepreneurs, founders of color, community organizations, all of those, I think we wanted to take some of the conversation we're having in the background with different people and put them in the foreground so that we could learn, so that we could educate ourselves, and actually listening to the stories of the people affected so that we can understand what our role is into play. And so that is why we decided to create this series called Investment and Inclusion, which we do every month. We took a break for December, but we're back in January. And the first conversation we had was about this pipeline problem, right? About the fact that investors keep saying to us, we don't know where to go to find the right, women entrepreneurs, to find entrepreneurs of color. And very tellingly, and make a good investment. And so somehow in the psyche, there's this understanding, or there's this perception that investing in women and investing in new majority founders isn't a good investment. So we have to really address that. And we wanted to bring those conversations forward and call in all the investors that we work with, because we need their help, right? We all need their help, and the money needs to be directed in this way. So that, very selfishly, we said, we need to educate ourselves. Let's do it along with everyone else and ask those questions. So
that's so good. And before
Inclusion Lab to do this series.
And folks, I tuned into the first two conversations. They were absolutely outstanding. They were transparent. They were authentic. I know those terms are thrown around a lot, but the conversation was so real, and the information and this is how we evolve, is through conversations and connections. And it's just phenomenal. I just need to do a quick bounce back for a second. This is why we ask you to share your business and your platform live, because folks can come up and give a testimonial and, say hello, and do things like that for your business. It's so great. Thank you, Diane, for sharing that about Scroobius. And I want to say hi to Karen and say, yes, it's all. And then Priyanka had a quick question for you, Maria. She was looking at the application process.
Yeah.
And
so maybe I should start talking about the fellowship then, so we can
Well, I want to, yeah, okay. Well, maybe we'll just come back to that for just a second. That's for the fellowship. But we still want to stay with the investment and inclusion while, engaging with our beautiful and phenomenal audience here. I put the link to the Capital Network's investment and inclusion series. So you can go there. There's a way to sign up, right, for your newsletter so that you can get alerted the next time it happens, right, Marie?
Yep.
For January. Really, you do not want to miss this conversation because this is how the change happens. One of my favorite stories just here in Boston was when the government was like, well, we can't find any Black entrepreneurs. So the head of the Black Economic Council said, really? And he had to immediately set up a nice big event at the Boston Convention Center where he filled it up with Black-owned businesses so the government could easily find them. It is an awareness here. And that's what you're doing, is increasing awareness, Marie, with these conversations. And before we go on to the Female Fellowship Program, how is it that you partnered with our friends down the road at Brown University, with the Venture Innovation Lab? I mean, that's
Venture Inclusion Lab. Yeah.
Yeah. And, with Professor.
Babu. Yeah.
Babu. She's amazing.
Phenomenal. Before I get into that, I do want to give a shout out to Beckma, who does phenomenal work out here in Massachusetts.
Yes.
Boston While Black. There's a bunch of organizations here. The Urban Labs. There's a lot of fantastic organizations that do great work. Optima Boot Camp and all of that. So these are all partners that we work with, and yeah, we're very lucky to have these organizations here. But yeah, so essentially, I saw Banu, who is a professor at Brown University for entrepreneurship. I saw her speak at an event for Hub Week, probably about 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking about, women. She was talking about new majority founders. She was talking about kind of all this data and demographics and kind of like the way that investment was trending. And so I called her up and I said, I've been having these conversations and I really think that, I want to continue have these in the open, but I also need data to back this up, right? I mean, we need to have the conversation about how people are feeling and the way that they're behaving, but we also want to understand what the data and what the shift is, right? So we can marry the two and urge people to action through those two things. And so wonderfully, she was like, yep, sign me up. So she moderates most of our conversations and really can bring the data portion to these conversations and these real life examples.
Right. And folks, another reason why you want to go attend these series is because in the chat area, you throw in your LinkedIn URL and you will connect with other female founders, because it's through that connection and conversation with other founders that you will feel less isolated. You will have opportunity to share and see how folks are doing and know that they're struggling just like you are, trying to figure it out every day. You're excited, but sometimes the obstacles can seem overwhelming. When you connect with other female founders, you can find a sisterhood that is so important, right, Marie?
Yes, 100%.
And Karen has a quick comment here. There are many groups around the world I have come to know that are investing and working to invest in female founders. It seems important to build a worldwide alliance and database and conferences. Agree 100%. And hey, Priyanka just signed up. Woohoo! So now we can go into the Female Fellowship, now that we've given the wonderful inclusion series, and we'll come back to that a little bit in a second. But when did you guys launch this program called the Female Founder? I shouldn't say you guys. When did the Capital Network launch the Female Fellowship, and why was that important? Because folks, any gender, she, her, him, he can all sign up at the Capital Network, right?
There, absolutely.
Yeah.
So essentially, when I was the program person for TCN in 2016, I had been there about a year, and I had kind of gone through a year of workshops and kind of looked at who was in the room. And it's very obvious that who was in the room was, older, white, or younger white, or maybe South Asian, young or old, right? There were practically no women in the room. This was 2015 to 2016. And so, it was like, well, what the hell's happening? Like, we know there are female founders out there. So what is it about our programming? What is it about the space that we're creating or the community they're building that isn't welcoming to them, right? And so we looked at that, and so, I decided that the best way to kind of bring women on is to create a program that would give them free access to the content and to mentorship and to the investors that we work with. And so building that over time, it started with just giving free access to one full day event we were having at Google. And then the following year, we were like, well, one event really isn't enough, right? So why don't we make it a 6-month fellowship and give them access to everything that we do for free? Like, okay, great. So the following year we did that. And then the following year we're like, well, really, but that's not enough. Like, why don't we have like closed groups where they can really interact with the investors and meet them and have breakfast with them and meet them in an environment that's less scary than pitching to them. So we did that the following year. And then the following year, which is the last fellowship that we did, we were like, well, but really, it's not just about the education. It's not just about the investors, right? Like being an entrepreneur is quite lonely. And especially when you're a female entrepreneur and potentially you have kids or you have other things going on, we're like, that group needs to get together more. So then we're like, okay, well, let's do a monthly check-in where we really see where the women are at, how we can help them at there and then, right? How they can help each other. And, this particular group has been awesome. And actually shout out to Allison for really helping as well, to connect to each other. And we know that they've collaborated on projects, that they've supported each other outside of us, that, that's all we can hope for, is creating a real cohort of people who are going to support each other no matter what.
And that's the beauty. And I've gotten to know many of them. Many of them have come and pitched at Founders Live.
Exactly.
Boston, and and just having that opportunity to, again, connect with women. I went to an all women's MBA program, and it was so delicious because we never got caught up in semantics. Our darling men are wonderful, but they use different language for the same thing. And a lot of times, women are, back to the cave days, right? We were in the meadow gathering and conversations. Don't eat this mushroom. Be careful of this. And, men were more like out hunting and getting to the point. So sometimes, women we want to talk. We want to tell our stories behind everything. And, the eye rolls get to the point with some of our men. So, and this is, it's a fact. And so when you get together with female founders who are also trying to bridge the gap of being a founder and what I got a kid who might have learning differences, or I'm a solo parent, or, things that they're trying to figure out along the way. If you can help with resources, but more than that, just a listening ear, someone who can go, yeah, boy, do I understand that challenge. It's not about being perfect. Just show up. How can I help you? Of course, I've been feeling that way ever since the lockdown for parents who are parenting while pandemicking. So hard. Hey, look, we have a new majority founder here. I love that.
He's one of our fellows.
Yay! The TCN fellow has been the best thing that happened to me in 2020. Not only did I meet truly fabulous women, but I also had a mental transformation in fundraising. Woohoo! Come on.
She's raised some money too. So she's really made things happen. She's awesome. I also wanted to point out, Ande, I think one of the things that if anybody out there is trying to figure out a program, one of the things that really helped us is being very intentional with what kind of cohort we wanted to create. I think when you're in the business of, for us, it's really education. If through coming to our program, you've realized, actually, you know what, I'm not going to raise, great. If you've come through our program being like, you know what, I am, and I'm going to be ready and all of that, great, right? I think we're really trying to help people figure that out. But what was really important to us when we were thinking about the fellowship is we didn't want it to be a typical Boston cohort. And what I mean by that is that everybody comes from Harvard or MIT or Babson. Because I think we wanted to create a cohort that had some of those women because they have things to bring, and they're working on fantastic organizations and companies. But we also wanted to have women who didn't have access to all of that stuff, right? Who didn't have the backing of MIT and Harvard and all of those things, and creating that kind. And also we wanted to bring women who hadn't been in accelerators before, and a couple who had, because all of those different experiences really enhance the group as a whole.
Yes.
So we wanted to make sure there was diversity within that group as well. And we've always done it where it's about 50% women of color as well.
Love that. I love the fact that you're bringing together a mixture of experiences, lived experiences that will add to the final outcome for everybody. And those of you in San Francisco, you know exactly what we're talking about, because you have it with your Stanford and your UC Berkeley and all of that. There is a bit of and in Boston, I mean, gosh, we're surrounded by incredible, wicked high learning institutions, and that come with a whole lot of wonderfulness, but also it can feel intimidating if you have maybe a community college degree or none at all, and you've got a really good idea and you have traction on it and you need that help. You can feel like, well, why bother? Who's going to even think I have anything to add to the equation? You do. You could be building something that's big and hairy and audacious. And the fellowship can help you tap into, some of the partnerships that these other women founders will bring to you. And if any of you use the business model canvas, right, for your business model, you know that those key partnerships are so important. Who are some of your key partners that you have at the Capital Network that have really helped you move forward in the community as well as outside the community, Marie?
So we work with, we kind of try to create a mix. So we work with a lot of angel groups out here in Boston, because Boston has plenty of those. So we're working with a lot of the groups here, individuals. But we also wanted to make sure we worked with community organizations. So we have some partnerships here with organizations that focus on founders of color, or that focus on women, or that bring a different flavor to entrepreneurship in general. And then we've worked in the past with the LGBT Chamber of Commerce. We've worked with different service providers too, because, honestly, for us, we're a nonprofit, and without the service providers helping us with some of that deep technical knowledge to help educate the entrepreneurs, it would be difficult to do our job, right? So shout out to all the service providers that we work with as well. They've been very supportive, so we're lucky.
And speaking of people in the community, Gerald Shapiro is saying, I am a male founder of Women's Health Company who mentors women founders via MIT Portugal, 10 at WPI, and the MIT Enterprise Forum. I got to tell you, that's an incredible group, the MIT Enterprise Forum. Thank you for supporting the female founders as well as all founders as a mentor. You're amazing. I just wanted to do a quick shout out to that. And I also just want to bring up this other comment here too from Priyanka. Yes, we need some radical innovation like this in the fundraising space. We really do. This new majority is really, really just a phenomenal term. And Karen has a great comment here. She wants to share this article, and I'll grab this and put it into the show notes too. A great article that can be translated to many fields on the importance of female role models. I mean, we can use our imagination, folks, but sometimes, it's really hard to be what you can't see. And we know this with the recent, our new vice president-elect with Kamala Harris and all. But in the business world, we need to see all types of women, not just, super educated, but women who are also coming from different backgrounds and different communities who have been able to, maybe help generationally serve their family with their business, up to the community, up to going global, whatever. And TCN can help with that, right? If they want to really they've got an idea they want to take to the world and they want to be the next unicorn, you can help them with that, right, Marie?
Well, we're really focused on the fundraising aspect.
Yeah.
So it's really, for us, it's more about kind of helping them understand what that first capital might be, whether it's a grant from the government, whether it's going the angel VC route, whether it's revenue-based financing. I think what we're looking into now for the next couple of years too is there are new models of funding. And so we're really looking at those and trying to bring those to light. So equity crowdfunding came up a couple of years ago. So we've done some programming around that and really trying to help entrepreneurs keep abreast of what are the things that they can do and look at to help support their business.
Right. And folks, the funding process doesn't have to be a lot. Sometimes it can be some micro lending from your economic development council in your area that has, some micro lending capability to help, give you that leverage. It's, you can still have a phenomenal business without going through those traditional fundraising avenues, but you need to know. And one of the mistakes as a .com founder back from 98 to 2000 that I saw and I continue to see today is how much equity people will give up for, let me just give you some equity attorney who's helping us out, or some equity here, board advisor who's helping us out. No, you want to keep as much of the ownership of your business as possible. Do you talk about that at TCN, Marie, and help founders understand about holding on to ownership and what that means?
Yeah, exactly. So just kind of thinking it through different terms, whether it's, how to give equity out to your employees because you might not have cash on hand, whether it's, what the term sheet negotiation process looks like and what investors expect of the amount of equity that they're going to be receiving and what that means. Our cap table program is all about helping you figure that out so that you don't give away the farm, upfront. And most investors, if they're good investors, also don't want you to do that. There needs to be a real incentive for you to keep growing your company. And so giving out, having too high a valuation or giving out too much equity doesn't then incentivize you to keep growing this business. So there are also just kind of internal mechanics that we help you figure out so you understand why investors are saying the things that they are to you and what they mean by that. And what are some of the things that you can think about to make sure you make the right decisions for your business?
It's so important. I mean, you watch Shark Tank, right? You know that they're always going on about valuation. And it can't be like this. Well, we're going to give 10% away. So I think that means we're valued at 5.5 million. Because we're going to raise $500,000, or we're looking at 750. So at this percentage, it's that valuation. Yeah, you have to understand what this language is and why it's out there, and have someone like the TCN, right, Marie, tell you valuation. I mean,
valuation is not the most important thing. Let me put it out there right now. Valuation is not what you should be spending the most of your time.
Okay. Before I put that, stitch that on a pillow. Seriously, okay, folks, why? Share with folks why it's not where you should be spending your time.
Entrepreneurs a lot of the times are really focused on having a high valuation. The problem with having too high a valuation is that you can't reach that if your valuation is too high and you're raising a certain amount of money in the next round, if you're not valued at more than that, then you'll have a down round, which looks really, really bad and makes you look like you haven't been able to reach your goals. You also have to be realistic about what's going on in the market, how you can grow your company, and kind of having a too high valuation just actually completely pulls the rug under you. There's some investors that say, okay, you know what, you pick the valuation, I'll pick the terms. And I think that's a really good thing for entrepreneurs to bear in mind. The terms are more important than the valuation. So, being valued at 10 million, if you're not truly there and you can't reach a higher round the following round, it's going to be devastating for your company.
Okay, so I bet in 2015, the first time you heard down raise, you were like, say what?
I was like, what's a down raise?
Okay, so come on. Not all of us are aware of what a down raise is. Share.
Yeah, so there's I think it's really important to talk about raises because I think a lot of focus is hung up on the amount of funding. And so I think what's important is not less about how much you raise, but really what you're going to do with that, right? So for entrepreneurs, I really want you guys to focus on, going backwards. So it's not about, well, I need to raise $500,000 to do this and this. It's more about like, okay, I've got this business. These are my next two steps. I'm going to hire this person. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do X. Okay, how much will that cost? Okay, so then I need to raise this much, right? You need to really understand what that money is going to do and how it's going to grow your business. Raising money for the sake of raising money is super pointless. So really understand why and how much for. That's super key. And so every time you raise money, you are asking for a certain amount to do those things. And essentially, if you have a down round, it means that you were trying to raise a certain amount of money, but you fell short. And you fell short maybe because investors were like, you know what, your valuation is way too high. We don't think this is realistic, and we don't feel comfortable with giving you money. That could be a reason. Could be another reason. Could be you hit some kind of rough patch, and investors are getting a little bit scared of like what's happening with the market or whatever. And so it's really you not being able to reach a goal that you've set for yourself. And that can be really, really devastating to not be able to reach that goal.
Well, and even more devastating is not to do after you've gotten that feedback. Meaning, like, this is why you want, if you're in or considering fundraising, you want to be with this group of people who you can come back from a raise disaster and go, okay, these are all the questions I got. And then they mentioned down raise. And I was like, say what? So you have to.
Yeah, that's a big part of why we have this investor network is for you guys to be able to ask those questions. So for any members and any fellows, we do every month or other month, we do like an Ask an Angel group where literally it's a supportive environment. People get to ask whatever question they have about the way that works. So we really want people to have honest conversations around that in a way that lets some of the pressure and some of the power dynamics off. So that for us, that's super important.
That's right. And that's why, folks, I had the Andelicious moment coming in because it feels so good to hear Marie talk about this. It's so important for you to know that it's okay that you don't know this information, but it is your job and your role as the founder to go find organizations like TCN that can help you. Hey, we just came out of a big snowstorm, folks, and the sun is coming out. I see it in your room, Marie. It looks so good. Hey, so how is this journey of serving and educating founders and promoting them and helping them in such a profound way? How has this experience over the last 5 years added to your life, both professionally and personally?
So, it's definitely been a learning curve. And I think what I will say, one of the strengths we have at TCN is that we are very open about constantly learning. So, have some programming that we've been doing for a long time, but also trying a bunch of new stuff in 2021. So for me, what's been really great about TCN is being in an environment that's been supportive about what felt important to me. And that is with women, that is with new majority founders, that is with asking questions, that is with, listening to all these stories, and also helping people build that confidence. It's a scary environment because you know very little about it. And most people we work with, it's their first time. The power dynamic is definitely off, right? There's definitely a strong sense that investors have all the power and entrepreneurs don't, which is actually not true. But that's in our heads, right? That's how we see it. They have the money, I need the money, like something's off. So I think for me, what's been great with TCN is having this space and a supportive community. And my God, have they been supportive. I mean, we work with Techstars, Mass Challenge, Learn Launch, like all of these amazing accelerators, all of these investment groups, all these community organizations. And for us, it's about collaboration, right? There's no point in us doing anything that anyone else is doing already, right? If we know somebody great doing that, great, go to see them, right? We really want to make sure that we can be a connective tissue between all of those groups.
And what does 2021 look like for TCN, and how can we add wind and support and make it a wonderful year for you?
So 2021 is about answering a lot of the questions that we've been asking in 2020. So through Black Lives Matter, through COVID-19, through issues we've seen with investment to female founders going down this year, we've been asking a lot of questions about what our role is. What is it that we need to do to help support all entrepreneurs? It's no good saying we support all entrepreneurs if practically we don't have programs that really serve all of these other groups that don't have the same access, right? And so that's a big part of us for this upcoming year is answering those. I'll also say that like we're going to try new things. So we are super excited, and we'll announce this in January. But Ande, I put makeup on, so I might as well like use it to tell you what we're doing. Which is we're going to have an investor in residence program, which is the first time we've ever done that. And so Lisa Fristreier, who is a active investor in the Boston ecosystem, who invests solely in women and new majority founders, is going to come on board as an investor in residence. We are beyond excited. She is phenomenal. We're also going to have a fellow in residence program, and we'll announce that in January. I won't say who it is yet. But trying to create these community and these interactions so that we can do more work than we have more impact than we already do.
I think
I just want to say one thing is there's only 2 of us on this full time. That's it. Right. So as much as anyone can come and help support us, we are here for it. Jing and I, really love what we do, but we can't do it without the community.
Right. Oh, I love that. And first of all, with your new series, but also with the new hashtag new majority, you have got us off to a great start in 2021 already. These conversations that you're bringing, everything are so important. And yes, the startup community will do whatever we can to help you and promote you and serve you while you were serving us. And there's one piece of information you gave when you were talking about the investors and that it feels unequal. I just want to take a moment to make sure our first-time founders understand the agenda behind a fund, angel or VC, is they are looking for the deals. So actually you are serving them.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving them an opportunity to get some win, to get a return, and something for them to talk about, to the people who have funded their fund. So remember that. And I have a great document called Questions that you have to be prepared for investors, investor questions, but also there's a group of these questions called Questions for Investors. And it's so important. You can download them right here and grab a copy. But I got to tell you, you need to show up with your questions because I want you to always, and I know Marie wants you to always have aligned investors for your startup.
Due diligence isn't just for them on their business, it's for you on them. Because if your gut says no, then listen to that. It's a long-term relationship. You do not want to get into that kind of relationship with somebody you don't feel good about.
You don't want to be handcuffed.
Yeah.
Hey, Anna Maven, look who's here. How are you? So good to see you. Folks, this is one of the top DEI goddesses in our Boston community. She's amazing. We love her. Everywhere she glows, she adds value. I had her on the show.
Her is nice.
Yeah, she's rocking it there on Facebook. Yeah, anyway, but can I put this in? What would you like me to put in the Karen? How can we get in touch with the live person with Capital Network?
Human? With Jing all right?
Okay, so you see Marie's email address is right here.
Yeah.
Marie at the Capital Network. But I appreciate that, right? How do I get a hold? What do you have to say to that, Marie?
Yeah, my email's down there, so go for it.
Perfect. Email her. Jing will, may respond. Marie may respond, but they are there. They're very responsive. I can say that personally because I knows these people. So it's all good. Any last thoughts for our viewers before I wrap up the show, Marie?
Yeah, I mean, I think, fundraising is really hard. And you don't really, one of the things we say is, it's really, really hard. Bear that in mind. You don't want to do it alone. And you want to make sure that your vision comes across and that you are surrounded with people who are going to build you up and build confidence. And this is something that women are phenomenal at, right? Is supporting each other. And if you're not surrounded by a group of women who support you, then dump those women. So I think, for us, that's what we're trying to build. We are actively learning, actively talking to people, actively trying to understand what our role needs to be. So we, just as much as any other organization, are a work in progress. But I really encourage you to come to some of the events that we do, ask those questions. We are here to support you. Our role is to really engage with entrepreneurs. So yeah, come and hang out.
Excellent. All right, folks, you heard it. You saw it. You know how to reach her now. And especially remember, for the men who are watching, this is for all walks of life, but the female fellowship and then of course the conversations around inclusion.
Yeah.
You're really changing the pipeline, folks. This is where the Capital Network is not only helping those who want to raise or have a better understanding of what fundraising looks like, but they're trying to change that landscape, and they're going to, and they are in the process of changing the landscape of where the money is coming from. And so that is so ideal. I am so grateful that you hopped on the show to share this wonderful organization and the incredible work that you, Marie, and those who keep adding wind to your sails, like Jing Jing, love you, Jing Jing, and all the folks here in Boston do. Here's a quick comment. Hey, hi, Mona.
That's right. I mentioned 1863. So 100%, Melissa does great work. Go check them out. They have some phenomenal conversations.
Excellent. Oh, I'm so glad you commented, Mona, because that's a great piece of information to have up here, evergreen on the YouTube channel. So thank you for that. Marie, thank you for joining me. And live viewers, I got to tell you, so grateful that you tuned in either now or via the replay. Didn't we nail down some great information? I'm just all over the hashtag new majority. I just feel that that is so moving forward, proactive and positive for how we want to serve folks who have been underserved and underrepresented in the past. But I agree with Marie, that's a little on the negative side. But again, thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, you saw how you could email Marie at the Capital Network. You can reach out to us, leave comments, and connect. I'll have her LinkedIn and, of course, the Capital Network's Twitter handles and other ways that you can connect online with this amazing organization. And hey, be sure, I'm always saying this, and this is what Marie really honed in on, was you do not need to be doing this alone, struggling alone. I have, Andelicious opportunities to work with me. I will do pitch deck reviews for you. One of the features I have is on-demand founder coaching, so that when you're in the moment, you can book me by the minute. And then for you female founders, do not leave money on the table by not becoming WeBank certified. If you have an opportunity to be working with large corporate or government contract opportunities, this is the gold standard. It'll get you in the door, the WeBank certificate. So if you're struggling with that really gnarly application, book a call with me. This is how you do it. Get on the phone with me for 15 minutes right here. We'll chat. And then if you need help getting through the application, I am here for you. I got to tell you who's coming up on Tuesday. I'm so excited. Tuesday, we're going to be meeting a little late, not at 1 p.m. because, we're going to be clinking. That's right. Mia Voss, Mia on the go, Mia Voss live, the one and only, is joining us live. And I have to tell you, this is Tuesday at 6 p.m. And Mia is helping us celebrate the holidays and the silver lining moments from 2020. We've heard a lot of devastating times this last year, but I keep seeing this thread throughout about silver linings. Come and chat with us about them. Mia is a marvelous, multi-talented fab founder, a super opinionated lifestyle blogger, a mouthy activist, and a trusted brand ambassador, and a popular podcaster. So, we're saying grab your favorite libation, bring your holiday spirits, and join us and share your silver lining story and share, what you've been going through. We'll be having our drinks and our Santa hats on, and look forward to hearing how this year has been for you. And to be sure that you get an alert every time I post a new show, come join the Startup Life Live meetup group right here. That way you'll get the email that says, hey, look who's coming up next. And I'm going to be doing a calendar as well. My wonderful Nikki Pasquier, who creates all this incredible branding for the Startup Life Live and the Andeliciousness, is creating a wonderful calendar, so you'll know who's coming in a month in advance and can easily add it to your calendar. So founders, I have such a deep appreciation of you and the journey. I invite you to stay focused, stay strong, stay healthy, and if you have to, stay home and hang in there, because you've got this. Reach out, connect with other folks, and remember, you don't need to do this alone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next Tuesday or on the next show whenever you tune in. Okay, take care, everyone.